Thanks for thanks for the whole community that you've built and are continuing to build. It makes a huge difference, and especially in the years to come. Like I feel big things coming from Dragonfly, and yeah, I'm just honored to be a part of it. So thanks for that. My name's Jeff Perry. I'm a Reiki practitioner, master teacher at the Cove Healing, St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. And really, I kind of feel honored and humbled to be here today, just in hopes that my story, I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal story and how I found Reiki and what that's done for me. And my intention is just that, I'm hoping that you hear what you need to hear. You might get a little inspiration, you might feel a little more hope, like whatever that means for you. I just feel it's important at this time just for me to kind of share my story to let you know the person that I was, and some of the things that I was dealing with before I found Reiki, and a little bit about me after Reiki. And then with the time that we have left, I have a very grounding meditation that I'd like to do, like to share with all of you. So yeah, so I've been on the Reiki journey probably for almost 15 years now, and it came to me one night. I was working night shift. I used to work at an oil refinery, my old life, and I was dealing with a lot. I was that person who was very anxious. I always carried a lot of tension. I was angry, very impatient. I was the kind of guy I'd wake up in the morning and kind of pound a cup of coffee to him and then just go, 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 like for the whole day, not even really breathing. So I was dealing with a lot. I had a hard upbringing. There was abuse, sexual abuse, a lot of trauma as a child as I was growing up. So I carried a lot of that with me. And I honestly, I didn't even understand how much of all that I was carrying with me until my first Reiki session. So yeah, so it was one night on night shift when a friend of mine reached out to me over social media, and she's like, "Hey Jeff, this is me." Her name was Denise. She's my Reiki master teacher. She wanted to tell me what she was involved in, which was her own Reiki clinic, and she thought that a session would benefit me. She wanted to show me what it was all about. So I knew her from high school, so it was really no question for me to go and just to see her again. But we already had a trust, we already had a bond from many years ago. So I was like, you know what? Sure. Like I've been kind of feeling lost, and I was starting to try different things at the time, medications to help with anxiety, and what I thought at the time was, or what we thought at the time, my doctors and I, was depression. So I was kind of willing to try anything new. So I ended up going for my first Reiki session. Um, and even I remember even the drive there was stressful for me. Um, because again, I just always carried so much tension, and I'm sure I was never grounded, and it was just get to one place to another, do what I got to do, and then move on to the next kind of thing. So I remember even the drive there being stressful for me. And when I got uptown, there was, people walking out in front of me and cutting me off, and I was getting angry, and I'm like, geez, I got to get to this appointment, and I'm getting frustrated, and I couldn't find a parking spot. And then, like a lot of things, I almost said, you know what, the hell with it. I'm not going to bother. This is too hard for me to even park up here, and this isn't going to be worth my time anyway. Like that was my attitude, right? Like that was the person that I was. So honestly, I was about to leave, and text Denise and say, look, I'm too frustrated. I'm too, tense right now. I'm angry even. Like I can't find a parking spot. Like let's reschedule. And then boom, in front of me there was a parking spot. So I was like, okay, sweet. So I pulled in and realized, okay, I'm going through with this. Never even let me back up. I had to even Google what when she told me she was a Reiki practitioner. I had to Google what Reiki was. Like I had no clue. Um, so that same night at work, when I did Google what Reiki was, I automatically thought, okay, what kind of hokey pokey shit is this? Like, like I seen the picture of like a practitioner with her hands over a client, and they're talking about energy and how Reiki can get in and find these energetic blocks and free them up so we can have a nice clear flow of energy that's helps us relax and takes away stress and allows us to be in the moment and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, sure. So my friend Denise from high school is gonna, wave her hands over me, and I'm gonna feel all of these things, And yeah, I was really skeptical of it. And it's funny because it actually reminded me of that scene in Karate Kid. Remember the original movie, The Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi was like doing the thing with his hands and he would like heal Daniel-san's knee at the tournament or whatever it was. I'm like, this is what I'm getting into. Like, is this really what Denise is doing now? Um, so yeah, I even kind of made a joke about it. So when I did find out what it was, I was a little interested, just because I again didn't know anything about Reiki, but I knew Denise and I knew that there was something there, so that kind of drew me in. So anyway, I'm uptown, frustrated Jeff, half angry, just getting off night shift, looks like a bag of shit, um, found the parking spot and walks into the clinic. And I actually remember when I walked into the clinic, the atmosphere felt really good, um, which was unusual for me because I'm usually just so hyper focused on like what I need to do, get, or whatever, and keep moving along. I actually, when I walked in, I felt like a sense of calm, as well. So that took away a little bit of my anxiety, which made things a little better. And then I seen Denise, which was, we were all smiles and kind of, reminisced about high school and things like that for a few minutes. And so she knew that I wasn't real comfortable. She knew I was anxious. So she was really good at just kind of like talking me down, so to speak, And I think even at that time, she was kind of grounding me, without even me realizing it. So we talked a little bit about my past, about what I've been dealing with. I told her that I struggle with mood and a lot of tension, soreness in my body, basically every day. And she just felt happy that I was there. I could tell that she was glad that I went to see her because she knew she could guide me along and help me, give me whatever I needed. So after I felt even a little more calm, she explained what the session would look like, laying on her table and with a light touch, sometimes hovering her hands over my body. She's told me about burning sage to clear the room and to lighten up the room and to, make me more comfortable. Um, but even like with the explanation, I still didn't really know what to expect. I couldn't stay out of my head, right? So anyway, so here we are. We're in the room, and she's doing her thing, and my head just kind of kept on in that mode of, okay, what's going on? What's she doing now? Am I supposed to feel something here? Like, is this wasting my time? Like I'm going to be a friend to her and humor her, like and so yeah, my head was just going and going and going, and then. I don't know how much time had passed. I mean, it felt like 10, 15 minutes, maybe not even. Um, I could breathe a little bit more. Like I actually started to feel my body relax in the bed. And I could start to breathe a little more. My breathing got a little more deeper and a lot more slow, more calm. I felt more calm. My anxiety was still there. I remember having like clammy palms and and whatnot, but I felt a small little shift, a little bit more relaxed. Um, so she continued on with her session. I remember she pulled out, some crystals and laid them on me, and I was curious on what was going on there and what they do. And, so again, my head was more outside of me, wondering what's going on in the room than anything. But I kept finding myself coming back. What I know now is inside my body a little bit. And there was a time through our first session where I actually felt emotion. I felt like I wanted to cry. I held it back. I could have. I could have released right there, but I was the tough guy, right? Like I didn't show any emotion, um, and I didn't want to cry in front of her, because men don't cry, right? Like, so that was my attitude then. But I could really feel it. Um, so she kept working on me, and I kept feeling certain sensations, like just a little bit of heat, some tingling. My body would twitch once in a while, which I know now was me allowing releases to go. Um, yeah, and I started to feel even more relaxed, a little more heavy into her massage table. Actually, my body started to feel a lot more heavier. So after the session, we talked, of course, and she asked me how I felt, and I couldn't explain it. I actually had to sit with it for a little bit after our session to really understand like how I felt, because the things that I felt I haven't felt in years, almost wanting to cry being one of them, um, I felt my mind was quiet. Like my body and my mind actually felt quiet. And I think that's what I was trying to wrap my head around. It was like, wow, what, like, it was peace, right? It was me starting to find that quiet and that peace within myself. And that's why it was hard for me to get my head around, I think, was because I just never felt that in so long. So she gave me a glass of water, and I remember drinking the water, and the water was helping me come around a little bit more. And I was able to talk a little bit more about the experience. Um, and I'll back up again even a little bit. Even before she gave me the water, I was still laying on the bed, and I remember she asked me slowly to get up. And I thought something was wrong with my body. Like I was so heavy in the bed, it actually took me a couple of minutes to sit up. I looked like I was 85 years old with back issues, like getting up off of this bed, and then she's looking at me. She knows exactly what's going on. I'm like, Denise, why am I so heavy? Like I feel like my body just, wants to stay there. She's like, it's because you're grounded. Like this is the first time you've probably been grounded in so long. Like this is actually what it can feel like. So I was like, wow, I was amazed just by that. Um, so anyway, yeah, I started drinking a little bit of water. We started talking about my experience, and she told me some of the things that she had picked up while she was doing the session with me. And one of the things that she said was that she thinks I do have depression, and that she said that the job that I was in is actually deteriorating my health. The shift work at the oil refinery and my lifestyle at the time too wasn't very healthy. There was drugs. I never drank, but there was drugs. I went to the gym a lot. I wanted to be that big guy, so I abused steroids. Like, so my lifestyle wasn't healthy either. My diet was horrible. Um, so yeah, she told me all of the things that I needed to hear and that I needed to change. But one of the biggest things was that she knew that I was dealing with mental illness and that basically the job that I was in was going to kill me. And that she seen me as a Reiki practitioner, possibly in my future, making a transition from the industrial plant to a Reiki practitioner. Um, so yeah, that was the most that I remember out of that session. Like, and they were big points that she hit just for actually what I thought was about 20 minutes on the table for the whole session. And when I asked her how long it was, she told me it was an hour. I was floored. I was like, wow, like that just lost all sense of time. Um, so yeah, she hit a couple of points that really, really got my wheels turning. And the way that I felt as she was talking, I remember becoming more aware of our conversation. Like my head was still quiet enough I could actually stay, with a conversation and not be thinking about all these other things. And I started to feel like a warm feeling, like love is actually what it was. I started feeling happiness and love for the first time. And then when I started to feel this, we were still talking in a room, and she asked me again, like, how do you feel now? And I remember I was staring at the wall, like I was looking for the answer. But I remember staring at the wall and then looking for that answer and then looking over at her saying, I think I feel happy, and I was confused because I legitimately felt happy, like from my heart. It wasn't an external thing that was making me laugh or be happy. It was actually coming from inside. And then that one made me cry, because it was so pure and so joyful, and I haven't felt that probably since I was a young boy, that true love feeling. Um, and she's like, great, like she's excited for me. She's like, that's exactly what we want. Like, this is fantastic. So yeah, I remember thinking, I was excited to get outside. I was excited to get out there, and continue my day, which normally I just would want to hide inside and, or do my chores and that would be it. I actually wanted to get outside and be out there. And so, yeah, so we walked out of her room. I was feeling even more fantastic, like a lot more lighter. And still, the session was really resonating with me. Like, just so much seemed to happen during that hour that I knew it would take some time to settle with me. And it did for a few days. I remember continuously talking about my session with people and going over it in my head and just kind of like wondering how the hell can she, like, did she do this by working with my energy, but bringing this joy and this happiness and allowing me to feel this love for the first time in like many years. Like I was just amazed how this angry, negative, depressed, closed off, full attention guy can go in for an hour session and come out feeling like he had love and happiness again and hope. And I actually felt like there was more to me than just being that angry, closed off guy. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I felt right, Um, so anyway, she walked me out into her lobby, out into her waiting room, and I remember looking outside. It was nice outside, and I remember looking through the glass, going, "Wow, I'm just excited to get outside now," And I looked over on the couch on the seating room, and there was a young lady sitting there who was next to go in with Denise for her session. And she looked at me and she's like, "Wow, look at you! Like you look great! Like because my energy, my face, like I was just glowing." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And I walked over to this woman that I've never met before in my life. She stood up. As I was walking over to her, I hugged her. I kissed her on the cheek and told her that I loved her. And because I couldn't control this love and this happiness at this moment. Like it was just flowing. It was ridiculous, right? I mean, obviously I just hugged and told a complete stranger that I loved her. So they both giggled, and I was like, oh, like I realized like what just happened. And thank God she gets the whole Reiki energy thing, right? Because she absolutely knew like what was going on with me. And I was like, okay, nice to meet you. I better get going now. And both of them were like, no, 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 whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you need to sit down, let this settle for a bit. And they were right. I had to sit on her couch for 10 or 15 minutes and just let the energy kind of shift around and settle with me. It had such a huge impact on me. That it was almost like that euphoric feeling, like it was like a different kind of high that I've never experienced before. Um, and of course, not like everybody's first session is like this. Denise and I had a good connection. The trust was already there. It was exactly the right time for me to have my first session. Internally, I was ready to let things go and to move ahead, even though I wouldn't admit so much on the outside. So the timing was perfect for me, and the result was amazing. But because of that experience, that my first experience, that led me to want to learn more. Like, I needed to know how this can happen, like how somebody like me can feel this great after just a short time. Like, I needed to learn how exactly the mechanics of it all worked. So I started reading about Reiki, started to learn about it more just on my own. But I continued the sessions with Denise as well, weekly for a long time. And it was into our third session, roughly, when she told me that she believes that I was sexually abused um, when I was a young boy. And I never said no, but I never said yes either. I'm like, okay, like maybe was kind of my answer. But that session opened up like another door too of feelings that I had closed off, and because of trauma, I was in just in safe mode. I kind of buried that and forgot about it. But she was able to bring that out, and slowly, I was able to remember certain things from that experience, which allowed me to heal, understand, learn, and heal and move on. And that was like another heavy hitter for me. I'm like, wow, third session in, this is what she's getting out of me already. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is life changing for people, you know? And that same session is when she told me, sorry, maybe it was the fourth session after she told me, you should learn. Like, I teach Reiki, you should really learn, you know? Um, so I was like, yeah, absolutely, for sure. So that's when I started training. I did all the levels with Denise, probably over about three three years. And I wanted to pass this on. I just felt like it was my new path to show people that there's an option like Reiki to help you basically bridge the gap into a better life, whatever that means. I just needed to pass this gift on. I wanted to show people their higher selves. I wanted to teach them, how to do Reiki on themselves. Like, it became literally like my new passion. Um, yeah, that's exactly why I got involved is if Reiki could bridge the gap for me into better healing modalities and a higher life and a healthier life, then I wanted to do this for other people too. And that's exactly what it did for me. Reiki never stopped, obviously, but it led me to be a lot more healthier, more conscious about my eating, about my breathing, which took me quite a while to learn. That was the biggest thing with me. It was just learning how to breathe again, and just how to be in the moment. And Reiki helped me with that. And it led me into therapy, with my psychiatrist and my psychologist and working out healthily, not abusing drugs and feeling love for myself and going at things with an open heart and not so closed off, with a lot more understanding and compassion, which I learned again from Reiki. Humanity and passion was huge with me, as a kid, and I lost that growing up. So yeah, it really got me in touch with even the little kid in me again, which was fantastic. So that's what led me to open my clinic. I wanted to get this crazy gift out there to as many people as I could. Um, and yeah, so 5 years ago ish or so, 4 or 5 years ago is when I opened my clinic, and opened the doors for that kind of community. So ever since, it's been a journey. I work on my shit all the time. I take steps back, but I always take a little extra step forward after it's all said and done, just to kind of keep moving ahead a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And I know most of us understand Reiki's not just a one and done kind of thing. If you make it a part of your everyday and your life, um, then that's just a fantastic way to continue to heal. And we all need that. So yeah, so that's a little bit of my story. Trust me, that's just a little bit of my story, but I'm not going to talk this whole time about me. Um, so I think now might be a good time to, um, first of all, I don't know, Amanda, if we're going to do a question and answer thing, but if there is any questions or
Yeah, I
comments, like,
I think to now is a great time for some questions. I know I had a couple, but I'll first open it up to anybody. If you want to just pop your question into the chat, I will read it out and then Jeff can answer it. And while other people are texting, I will ask my question. Jeff, I know that you have added Reiki as one of your modalities, but can you just tell us about some of the forest bathing and stuff that I know you do, how you've the other stuff you do and how you've combined it?
yeah, thanks, Amanda. I actually wanted to mention that and I kind of forgot, so I appreciate that.
That's what I'm here for.
That's right. No, I love you. So, yeah, while I was on my Reiki journey, and shifting from, the whole industrial kind of life, listen to heavy metal, drugs, and, all that kind of stuff, I really opened up to that healing community. And forest bathing came across my path one day. It was me and my partner at the time. We were away doing some camping, and on the resort, they offered forest therapy, forest bathing. And I was like, that sounds interesting. I knew it was meditative, and I was into Reiki at that time. And I was doing some meditations on my own. So I was like, okay, let's check this out. So I went out for my first forest bathing session with this gentleman, and we went out for almost 3 hours. And it didn't have the like profound, I didn't get the profound experience like I did like from my first Reiki session, but the techniques that he used to bring us back to our senses, and to keep us grounded and safe and to learn in the moment, whether it's from ourselves or from nature, it was amazing. Like it was things like not only was I just enjoying the beauty of the forest, because it was slow and meditative, it wasn't like a hike through the woods. You actually immersed yourself in the forest. There was a lot of healing in that, and I know now scientifically, like it's actually a proven thing. The forest gives off um, what would I call it? I just want to say chemicals, but that's not the right word. Like a natural um, oil that
I
the
think it is
trees.
chemicals. It's a good chemical though,
Yeah,
right?
it
It's
is a
a
good chemical. Yeah, I want to say, I
yeah,
call it essential oil. I try to
yeah,
anyway. Like the trees give off this essential oil, and the purpose of it is to protect themselves from like insects and disease. But actually, when we're in the woods, in the forest, for up to when we get to the 20-minute mark ish, we actually ingest enough of that it lowers our it can lower our blood pressure. It can bring our,
yeah.
our breathing back to where it needs to be. We feel that relaxed feeling. Actually, studies have found that it takes away inflammation. It's actually a big thing, and it started back in the 80s in Japan when the tech boom started, and people were coming out of their homes to work in the cities, and they noticed people were getting sick. The sick time was going up. People were dealing with inflammation, headaches, aches and pains, even disease. So they did a study and they found out, hey, we're taking people out from the forest and into this environment, and they're not getting the healing that they're naturally getting in the first place. So they incorporated that into their workplace. And that's why a lot of places you see now that they have the green spaces, and they actually
Hmm.
encourage their employees to go out into those green spaces for so much time through the day just to reset their senses, to get back to grounding, to feel, to touch, to hear, like, so yeah, so anyway, it had a good experience on me. So I took the course through an association through it down through the States. And it was over a year, and it was again one of those life-changing things that was just so amazing. And again, it's just like me being a Reiki practitioner. I'm just a conduit, and it's like being a forest therapy guide. I'm literally just a guide. Like I open the door to the forest and the forest does the magic. We just need to learn to bring those people in through that process so they can absorb that as much as they can. So yeah, so that got me involved with that. So I have that now under the umbrella of my clinic, and I take out people individually or in groups. Yeah, and it's just another great way to heal. Yeah. Any more questions?
Stephanie Baker says you already had an established trust with your first session. Now that you've been doing this for some time, how do you establish that trust with someone that is more skeptical to make it more of a powerful session? Great question.
Yeah. Um, Being honest, I just try to be my raw self. I'd like to try to get them to see me for who I am. And that usually just starts with a conversation at first. We'll talk for 10 or 15 minutes before the session. And being a practitioner too, like we can be fairly intuitive. So if I know that person's anxious, then we can talk about that. Maybe I'll share my life story about how I was anxious about something, just to show them that, hey, we're both human here. Like we both have stuff. So I find when I allow myself to be completely honest, vulnerable, no embarrassments,
Hmm.
it makes them feel like they're in a safe place. And it takes a little bit of that pressure away. And sometimes after the first session, great things happen. And sometimes, probably most times, it takes that person two or three times with me to really know that, okay, things are good here, and they can allow themselves to be completely vulnerable. Um, Actually, I'm lying. Most times it's like first, second session. People get pretty comfortable with me pretty quick, you
Yeah.
know. But those of us who hold stuff that's really down and deep, I mean, that's understandable. They need to know they're in a safe place. So if it takes a couple sessions to build that trust, then it's worth it, But Reiki's great that way. Reiki only gives us what we need in that moment. And if it's just a session of being comfortable with the male practitioner, then so be it. That's what they need at that time. So that's what they'll receive.
I want to add into Jeff. You commented about how in that first session, you didn't, you didn't let yourself cry. Men, men don't cry, and I fairly, I have a lot of male energy. In my first session, I allowed myself to be so much more vulnerable because I was in my own space. If I had been in a clinic where I knew that I only had an hour to be in that space and then I had to leave and I had to go through, the waiting room, and I wouldn't have let myself fall apart the same way. And I think that's one of the real benefits of, there's pros and cons to everything, but the real benefit of doing it at a distance, you're in your own safe space.
Yeah.
And so you know that you don't have to get up after an hour and vacate the room. You can lay there. Like for me, the first time I did it, I was laying in my bed. I don't think I got up for that bed for several hours afterwards because I had, it's not that I had any profound experience in the meditation, but it was the first time I had ever felt comfortable in my own body. And it was such a
Mhm.
shock to me. And I remember thinking I didn't want to move because I didn't want my Reiki bubble to burst. Right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is I think you're absolutely right about being kind of your vulnerable, authentic self to people to put clients at kind of comfort, right? So when we all show up as our authentic self, our messy, authentic self, it makes it easier for everybody else around us to be their authentic, messy self. And that just isn't Reiki. Like in my first profession, I was a divorce lawyer. I used to make a point of swearing in the first few minutes of any new initial consult so that people would relax and see that I was just a person.
Yeah.
And it's that same thing, like being your authentic person. Like I smiled the first time you swore in this, Jeff, because I'm glad you did. Right, like that's, I know you swear. Right, so I'm glad that you show up how, if you're someone who doesn't swear, that's okay. I know I have lots of wonderful Reiki masters in my life who are, they're just soft and they're kind and they're not prone to swearing, and I love that energy from them. But
Mhm.
it would not fit if Jeff came in, and it wouldn't fit for me, right? So every one of us needs to kind of show up as who we are, not who we think we're supposed to be, not who our parents would like us to be, or our spouses, or who we think a Reiki master looks like. This community works because we don't want 100 Amandas or 100 Jeffs or 100 Margaret Marys. We want one of each authentic person, whoever you're meant to be. Um, and I just want to highlight some comments that Rowan posted. So he said, trees give off a special energy that can help with physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. The energy is often called tree energy or tree aura. From a scientific perspective, trees release natural compounds called photosides. I'm terrible at pronunciation, so I probably butchered that. Which have many benefits. And then Rowan said, "Love and appreciation for your openness and honesty, Jeff, and your story is inspiring and relatable. Thank you."
Yeah, thanks, Rowan. That's awesome. Yeah, and you're right. The fight insides is that
Phytosides.
what I
Yeah.
call chemicals, right? Yeah, I seen somebody else called it something else. Oh, it was Margaret Mary aromatherapy. I love that. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, thanks, Rowan. That's great. Yeah. Um, Amanda, there's something to be said too. Like I totally agree with, and I struggle with the online sessions at first, because
Mhm.
I really like that intimate contact with the client, when it comes to a one-on-one Reiki session. And then COVID, hit, and then it was very restrictive for people. And that's when I started really looking at, okay, online thing should be a thing. Energy's energy. It's going to get to where it needs to do. Like it's right. It's not like we make it right in front of us. Like, so, and we learn distant healing as Reiki practitioners. So why not, do it online? And I love that idea because people who are uncomfortable with getting out, period, into a therapy session can be very edgy. Like me, for example, just the drive getting there was pissing me
Mhm.
off. You know, it's almost like I knew a good thing was going to happen to me and I didn't deserve it. So I intentionally made like all this negative stuff
Mhm.
fall in front of my path to keep me from going there. And, we'll call that's what the depression is, but for somebody to be in the comfort of their own home, is huge. And especially if we talk about, um, sexual abuse, very, dark trauma that people have had where trust is a huge issue, not just from going to see a male practitioner, but sometimes just getting in their car and driving through
Mhm.
town, like, so yeah, I think the comfort of your own being in your own home is huge. And honestly, I've experienced enough of the in-person and online sessions now where, sometimes online is better. I feel like
I think
energetically,
it's yeah, I
you
think
know,
it's a pro and con kind of like I think
yeah,
different experiences for what you need. Like for me personally, I've done lots of sessions in person, and I think for me they're more like more like a soul spa day, right? Like it's the
right.
lighter, I feel happy. But for me personally, when I'm doing the heavy duty healing, opening up parts of myself that I had, boarded up because there wasn't good things behind them, when I'm doing that digging down deep for me, being in my own space meant that as a recovering control freak, it allowed me to feel that sense of control in my space, right? I
Yeah,
could be in a comfortable position. I could have my favorites, I could have all of that.
yeah.
Um, Margaret Mary's raised her hand, so I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute and go ahead, Margaret Mary.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Amanda. Thank you for this session. Um, I really appreciate and acknowledge you, Jeff, for everything that you've shared. It's really touched me very profoundly because what I'm hearing is you and I, while we're our own individual frequencies, our yellow brick road has been very similar.
Mhm.
Um, I grew up in Delaware, and there is a path that I follow along the ocean through a forest. So that forest bathing is just, there were times my husband would just hand me the keys and say, go. Um, because he knew it and I knew it, but I would resist it. And because we are all our own unique frequencies, that authenticity is so important,
Yeah.
and it matters and makes a difference to each of us, for each of us, and with each of us, because we carry that energy everywhere we grow. And I really appreciate your vulnerability. And this is where you really touched me, the sexual abuse. It's not something I talk about very often. And, I've been experiencing sex since I was 4 years old. And not being safe and staying outside of my body and in fight and flight mode, I really hear and relate and acknowledge you for being with us and sharing that. And that's a huge gift, and that's very generous of you. And I had never, ever had a Reiki session until I took my Reiki class, and that was during COVID. So it was the distance. And like, very similar to what Amanda said, you know, when I heard the instructor going, you may continue with your journey as long as you like, I was like, no, I don't want to come back. I'm laying on the couch in this just in the privacy um, of my office, which is basically at that point was upstairs in the attic. And it was just like, I did not want to come back. And I did not have my first in person session until I went to Japan
Nice.
and studied for 3 months there. But each one of them is different, and there are those benefits. And we're so fortunate that Dragonfly has put this together for us because I can turn my screen on and off accordingly. I mean, I'm actually in New Zealand right now. It's like 2 degrees Celsius. I don't have heat or air conditioning here, and it's wonderful. The windows are wide open. I can hear the cows lowing over there. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I can smell everything. So that aromatherapy, so, you know, like you are so bringing it, and I love you for that. So thank you for the gift, which you are. Thank you for being here and sticking around. And I really appreciate you and I acknowledge you.
Margaret Mary, thanks very much. That's really touching. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's lovely. Um, yeah, kind of a little overwhelmed about your comments, not gonna lie. uh,
Listen, you're
but
human. That's the
but
human in you. We love
that's
it.
right. And hey, I've always been upfront and honest. It doesn't matter if I'm anxious or angry. I'll tell you. Like let's be open and honest here. And you know what? Like honestly, it was with my first session as well. If it looking back, if I was doing that online, I would have slept the rest of the day, even though I was excited to get out. Like,
Yeah.
because I just felt so much peace and I want to just soak that up forever. And that's why I rushed back. Like, it wasn't a week. It was probably 3 or 4 days later. I went back for another session. Um, but yeah, I remember that night I slept really well. I ate so much. Like, it was just such a huge reset for my system. Um, and I just want to mention this other thing too. Last year at some point, now, most people, when they book sessions with me, they check out my website. They know I'm a guy, like, they read my bio, like, whatever. And I had this young lady walk in my clinic last year. Actually, I'm sorry, about 2 years ago now. And I watched her get out of her vehicle. She was with her boyfriend or partner. And I watched her walk over the door, and I was like, oh, this poor little girl's so anxious. Like, I could just tell. And she walked in, opened the door, and she looked at me from like she was looking at her feet when she walked in. She looked up at me. She went, "Oh, you're a dude." I'm like, "Well, yeah, sorry. Did you expect like, a donkey or like I wasn't sure, right?" It just kind of like it threw me off for a minute, and then immediately I was like, "Okay, like this is a serious thing for her, right?" But she actually told me afterwards, again, because of her past sexual trauma, that this worked really well for her. Because in a weird way, without her researching who I was or being a guy or girl, it almost forced her in a gentle way, like to get past that barrier that she needed to get past. Um, but yeah, anyway, I for some reason I felt like I had to share that story. It was kind of funny, but very serious. But she walked in, she's like, "Oh, you're a dude," and she's just so cute, right? Like she's so raw and honest too. Like I love her to this day. We've got a great relationship. Um,
I
but
think it was
again,
actually important that you said that, Jeff, because I often say that like there are no mistakes, right?
right,
So we all carry with us all these things that we think we fucked up,
right,
right? Things we should have done different, crossroads where we went left when we should have gone right, and we spend so much energy, and I did it for a long time. My first husband, I thought like, you asshole, you should have left. You were an abused woman and you stayed, and all the time spent thinking that, but in fact, there are no mistakes. There is value in every what we feel is wrong turn. And the universe, if you allow it, will line up the experience that you need. And
mhm,
sometimes that includes putting on blinders in the short term so that we don't know,
yeah,
right? So if she had known that you were a man, she wouldn't have gone.
that's
So
right.
the universe just conveniently sidestepped that issue in the short term until she was standing right in front of you. So
Right.
and then the other point I wanted to make, Jeff, just to go along with what you're saying, is Reiki goes so well with counseling.
Mm,
Like, we're not saying this is a substitution for counseling and you don't need your therapist anymore, but I know from working with so many people who really struggle to open up, that Reiki can help you feel safe enough to open up to do that hard work and can be there to support you when that session is over.
hmm.
And I know you're a great example of that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up, and then I just want to highlight a few other comments. Stephanie said, yes, the spa day is exactly how I describe it. But to get deep and heavy, I prefer to be in my own comfort zone where I can stay settled and soak it in. 100% Stephanie. And then Cami said, thank you, Jeff. Yes, thank you, Jeff. The way you described forest bathing really sparked my curiosity and made me want to try it. And I want to point out, me and Jeff don't live that far from each other, about an hour, and we know each other from my previous life as a lawyer. So Jeff has actually graciously offered to come and work on my camp land. So we have about 200 acres of beautiful land here in New Brunswick, and we're actually going to be working together to create a physical space where people can come and do this stuff with Jeff. So you may have to plan a trip to the Maritimes in the future. But anyway, yeah, that is definitely something that we are in the process of doing. And Margaret Mary just added on that Reiki is a complementary therapy. It works well with everything, and that I say all the time. Reiki loves working with other modalities, so that's so true. Yes, a dragonfly retreat. This is, right now we are online and we value the online, but someday we will come together, both at my camp space and also my home. That is what the long term plan is for my home. And all the renovations we're making right now are in line with the idea that some places will be a physical place where practitioners, students come together to really be in the energy. So start where we're at. So, Jeff, anything else you want to add before you lead us into this wonderful meditation?
I really don't, Amanda. I think that was great. Yeah, some great comments. I really appreciate it. I feel the love. I appreciate that even more, you know. No,
We're
I think we're
we're
good to
doing
get
great
started.
for we're doing great for time. So you can make the meditation as long as you want. If you want to give us time to write afterwards, that's up to you. And
Okay,
then we can have a chance to share too, because we still have 45 minutes. So you're doing great on time, my friend.
okay,
So you just let me know whenever, if you want me to start the music. I will get that queued up and ready to go.
great. Thanks, Amanda. So this meditation, I'm gonna have it kind of partly derived from forest therapy. So some things that I've learned from that, um, kind of blended in with a really nice grounding exercise. So let's begin. So if we're comfortable, we'll just close our eyes and just give yourself permission to be here, to allow yourself to absorb whatever it is that you need from this meditation. So let's just start just by slowly taking a nice deep breath in and allowing it to go slowly. One more nice big deep breath in and letting it go slowly. And we're just going to start by noticing our senses. So let's shift our awareness just to our sense of hearing, sound. So, what is it that you're noticing? What sounds do you hear, either off in the distance or nearby? Just allowing yourself to listen. Now let's shift our awareness to our sense of touch. So whether we notice just what it feels like to be sitting here, maybe we rub our fingers together, even touching the cloth that we're wearing. Just notice your sense of touch. Just noticing, just noticing what it's like to feel, what it's like to touch. Now I invite you just to notice what it's like to smell. So shifting our awareness to our smell, just noticing what's in the air. Maybe lift your nose up like an animal would and kind of sniff the breeze that's coming by. Just noticing what it's like to smell. Now, with our eyes still closed, I want you to imagine that you're out, whether it's in a field or beside a riverbank. Maybe it's your favorite little sit spot. I just want you to imagine that you're sitting there in your quiet spot. And as you look off, way out in the distance, just start to see an outline of a tree. Just simply, just the outline, just the shape. It's way off in the distance. But just imagine that you can picture the outline of this tree. And this is going to be your tree. Notice the shape. Notice how far off in the distance it is. And just imagine that you're moving closer to your tree, very slowly. Still just seeing the outline of your tree. But allow yourself to move a little closer. You may notice the outline of your trees becoming a little bigger. And as we move even closer to our tree, just start to notice a little bit of what it looks like. Is there branches? Maybe it's very bushy. How tall is your tree? Just start to notice the subtle details of your tree. Allow yourself to move a little closer, starting to notice a little more detail. Maybe your tree has buds, maybe it has flowers. Moving a little closer to your tree, you're really starting to see a little more detail now. Colors. Notice the textures of your tree as you move closer. Now you can even notice the bark on your tree. And pay attention to this bark. Notice what it's like. Is it smooth? Is it rough? Is it thick? You're standing very close to your tree now, just noticing all the details, the shape, the flowers, the bark. Noticing the branches, the shapes. Just allow yourself to really notice the details now in your tree. Now I invite you to sit at the base of your tree, your back up against the strong trunk. Feeling the support, noticing the ground underneath you. And just sit at the base of your tree for a moment and just notice what it's like. Noticing what it's like to sit here, feeling supported, feeling safe. Noticing the peace that your tree gives you. Now I'd like you to imagine as you're sitting at the base of your tree that there's an energy cord or a tap root that is going to come out of the base of your spine and slowly make its way into the earth. So just imagine that you can see or feel this energy cord coming from you just into the first layer of the earth, breaking through the lawn, just into that first layer of soil. And just allow that root to slowly move down through that first layer of soil. Just imagine you can see it pushing soil out of the way, making itself a little path to grow down towards the earth center. This root moves very slowly. It's a very strong root. Just notice it as it moves down through that soil into more soil with a little bit of rock. Noticing that root shift around the rocks, making its way downward. Slowly growing, maybe even getting thicker, stronger. Allow your root to continue downward, down into the shale, down into the bedrock, watching your root find those cracks and crevices to grow down through, almost as if it was coming to something exciting. Still moving downward, growing thicker, into more layers of soil, dark, rich soil. Notice how your root moves downwards. It may even spread a couple of roots off to the side, almost like anchors or supports, new growth. Just notice that as your root continues to grow downward towards the earth's center. Just allowing your root to continue down through the layers. Maybe come across a little bit of water. You may just want to allow your root to lay there for a moment. And just notice what it's like. Watching your root grow, become stronger, thicker. We're getting close now to the earth's center. Just allowing your root to move down through these last few layers of rock and soil. And as we break through the last layer into the earth's center, imagine that it's full of love and healing, and that your root now breaks through that last layer and wraps itself around the earth's center. Imagine it as a red ball of healing and love and energy. Just allow your root to wrap around that ball of energy, the earth center. Notice what it's like to be attached, to be grounded. And let's allow the energy, the healing, whatever it may be that we need in this moment, allow it to come from the earth's center as you stay attached, and allow this to flow up through your root, up through all the layers, bringing up love, healing, peace. Allow it to flow upwards towards you and your tree, filling the root with whatever it is that you need on its way to you, up through the base of your spine. Let it flow into your body. Allow the earth to give you in this moment whatever it is that you need. Feel the flow. Feel yourself being replenished. Notice the energy swirling around you as the earth center is giving you all you need, and anything that is not needed will flow back to the earth and come back as pure love and energy. Just allow this to flow and know that you're getting what you need in this moment. Allow yourself to be grateful for what you are receiving. Just allowing this energy to flow in you and through you from the earth center all the way up your energy cord, through your body, letting go anything that's not needed. And just stay here for one more moment. Now we're going to start to come back to our tree. So just imagine you're allowing your root now to come unbound from the earth center, knowing that whatever it is you need at any time will always be there for you. But allow your root to unravel, come back up through those layers, all the soil, allow it to come back up through the bedrock, the shale, watching it slowly grow back into itself, making its way back up to the base of your spine through that last layer of soil. And just imagine that that energy cord now is sealed at the base of your spine, and you have received all that you need in this moment for this day and even your days ahead. Allow yourself one more time just to say thanks for receiving this energy from the earth center, allowing yourself to be here and to be grounded and to receive. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. And just take a moment, just wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Notice your body. Have a drink of water.
Thank you for that, Jeff. Just looking in the comments, Cami says, well, thank you for bringing more peace into our home. My cat was lying there by my side. Looks like she enjoyed it. Animals absolutely love Reiki. This we know. Thank you for that, Cami. That was a beautiful meditation, Jeff, and I'm so thankful that we were able to get together today, get to know more about you, and also to have this wonderful meditation, which again we will be sending out to everyone, so you guys will be able to return to this moment over and over again, and every time you do it, you will get something new out of it. Stephanie Baker also said that was beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll be going back to my tree soon. See the seeds you've planted, Jeff. The seeds you've planted.
Perfect.
Uh,
I love it.
yeah, I just want to let you guys know that Jeff does have a lot of great community sessions. Once a week, he has an event. One of the things that occurs to me, Jeff, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but something to think about is right now all of Jeff's offerings are for men. That was partly at my request because I think men are very very underserved in this area, and so I definitely pushed Jeff to do some men groups, but I also think, Jeff, we need to open maybe some more groups for just everyone to take us to that forest. So thank you for this. I am going to post just in the share the link to Jeff's current events, because they are a really great offering, and um, I'm actually very excited to see all the good and the healing that are going to come from these. And you can book those. Some of those are actually free. The first one in each he's doing for free, so you can go and test it out. Um, they can also be purchased for $20 US a ticket. You can also get them from inside a Dragonfly Reiki membership. And I will be posting, we have a special for our spring session, or for our spring celebration. We do have a session, or a special, sorry, for the memberships, which is you can get a 30 days free. You can just try it. You're not locked in. You can cancel at any time. So if you want to get a feel of everything that a membership does for you in the community, that's one great way. If you know that you need a way to ground and bring Reiki into your life and make it more of your, kind of day in, day out, and you know that you do want to go forward with our community, we also are offering an option too, which is a 20% off the membership for forever. So you'll always get 20% lower than the ticketed price. There's no wrong answer. If you feel called to do either of those, please do. And then we'll actually also be doing a draw from one of those people that sign up, whether you do A or B. We will be doing a free giveaway as well. At the end of the week, we'll be drawing. So I'm just going to pop that in the share now. And yes, Lauren says gratitude for sharing Jeff his gifts with our Reiki community. And Fiona says, thank you, Jeff, for reminding me of my first session. Great meeting you today. And I just want to pause to say I'm so thrilled to see really how we are just so across the globe. We have people literally stretched from one part of the world to the next. Margaret Mary's in New Zealand. Fiona and Lauren are both in Africa, one at the top, one at the bottom. Jeff's in Canada. We have lots of practitioners and attendees from the US. So this really is just a wonderful global community, and this is the antidote to the scary times that we live in, where we are trying to be divided, when fear is, we're trying to be kept in fear mode. Coming into groups like this and seeing how similar our paths are and the themes of all of that is just incredible. So I want to thank you again, Jeff, for being a part of this community, for being so generous with your time and your tractor, and for everything that you do for our community. And yeah, I would just encourage you guys all to check out Jeff's stuff. He's in the community. He's got all kinds of offerings, both one-on-one and in group. So, and yeah, Jeff, I think we're gonna have to do another, anyway, something to add to our list. Would anybody have anything else that they'd like to share or add? Feel free to either just pop it into the comments, or if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. Oh, Margaret Mary, sorry, I didn't see you there. Please unmute yourself.
Um, I'm carrying a lot of stress, and that really, especially in my low back. And at some point in the journey, I realized I was resisting it. And as you were wrapping up, this little voice went, "No, I don't want it to end again." And it was at that point, like in the sacral and root area, all the pain and all the stress left. And, before we started, I'm here for a medical Reiki case. And, last night there was a medical emergency and we were back in the ED and dealing with all of that. And it was through this session I realized, oh my gosh, I'm still holding on to this. So thank you. Like, beautiful. Really needed to let that go and was not even present to that I was holding it.
Thanks, Margaret Mary. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad you got what you needed. Yeah, that warms my heart.
Well, and I think it's just thank you, Margaret Mary. I think it just goes to show, I think Reiki practitioners in general are kind, loving people who are so eager to, help those around them and ease the suffering of all those that are here. Um, and oftentimes we do neglect our own self-care and our own Reiki practices where we're not just there. I mean, we all obviously benefit from giving from others. We all love giving, but it's really important that we do pause to take time to receive from each other, because it will improve our body, our health, and our ability to give to others. Yes, Margaret Mary says Reiki masters need Reiki and Reiki masters.
Yeah.
And then again, another benefit of having this community. So thank you for that, Margaret Mary. Anything else, folks? Oh, Fiona said there's a guy in my town that has a men's group, and I will tell him about you and your offerings, Jeff. Thank you, Fiona. It's true. I often think that in my, I have a lovely husband, and I often think that I expect things from him, but I don't necessarily. There's no clear path forward. I think for men in the same way that it is for women. Like I think women are better at sharing and we're better at support groups, and I think for there's absolutely a male loneliness epidemic, and the work that Jeff's doing is the antidote to that. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
and
Amanda.
uh, and thank you to everyone that came today. I hope you guys are going to check out our next sessions. Our next one is in about 15 minutes, and it's an introduction to Dragonfly. So I'll just be sharing a little bit about my story. I try to keep it to a dull roar, and then really focusing on the community and what this community means, and where we are at now, where we'd like to go. So I hope you guys can all attend that. And yeah, anything else you'd like to end? Do you like to say, Jeff, before we end this?
I just want to say thank you to you again for building this community. It is hugely important. And just to see these people coming together, we're all the same. We all need healing. We're all after something, right? We're all on a journey. So it's just beautiful to have the right community for the right people. And I just really appreciate everything. Yeah, this was great. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeff. I listen. Still working on being comfortable with compliments. One of the things I'm working on in this lifetime. But thank you. It's this community is really this whole project is the universe's project, and I'm just so very fortunate that I'm one of the people the universe has entrusted with this important work. But just one of the people. It takes a whole community to do this stuff. So
And
um,
for the record, I would never say no to you with anything. So if it's another group that you
don't tell
want,
me that.
whatever it is, done.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to see the good that we're already doing and the future where this community is going to go. So thanks,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Thanks very much.
Thank you all, and we'll talk to you guys all very soon, hopefully in the next 10 minutes or so. Thank you.